Craig Lowndes sitting in second spot there. It's going to be a Mobil 1 HRT 1-2, just one corner and about 500 metres to run. Across the line they come. He's
Craig Lowndes. Craig Lowndes has actually just taken the win on
It is a special day in Australian motorsport. The 888th Championship race is also the 100th Championship race win for Craig Lowndes. What a superstar. He has done it. Race win number 100. Very, very cool. If you believe in numbers, this was the day to do it.
Now that is some highlights from some of the fine work that Craig Lowndes has done up in the top end. And Hidden Valley comes alive this weekend with the Triple Crown up for grabs and a jam-packed lineup too with Supercars, Porsche Carrera Cup, Trans Am, Touring Car Masters, you name it. It is the full box and dice. And joining us to talk about it is the one and only Craig Lowndes. CL, welcome back to the driver's seat.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
So, first off, the last time we actually spoke before the Triple Crown, it was when you did Fink. And look, the desert beat you that time round. And this time you haven't gone back for another go. But talk about that little experience for those that might have missed out on your journey racing in the top end.
Yeah, look, it was actually a lot of fun. It was something that it's like a bucket list things that I wanted to do. And to have GM really wanting to actually go there and run the Silverado, which was a dream run. And yeah, we didn't quite get I think it was 3 stages: the prologue, the run down, the run home. We got the prologue, we did the run down, we just didn't get the run home. So, which was the most important one. But look, who knows what next year holds? It's just been done again, and it was been actually interesting to watch it from afar now, knowing that we were there last year. So, look, it's something that still it burns inside that I'd like to go back and complete what we started.
Well, look, it's definitely going to be no shortage of racing at the top end. As I mentioned, there's going to be so many categories. Supercars back up there, Porsche Carrera Cup, Trans Am, Touring Car Masters. But it's also going to be a huge Saturday night because we've got Shannon Knoll performing live as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've done some things along the way with Shannon. And he's a great guy and, obviously a very talented singer. And it's just great to have like an Aussie icon come up, and especially to the Northern Territory. It's a great place. We love it up there. Drivers get up there early. You sort of soak in the atmosphere and especially the weather. A lot of Victorian drivers migrate up very early to climatise. I think that's what Scaife used to call it, climatising, just to get up and have some warm weather.
Speaking of warm weather and talking about the weather, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your appearance at the Big Freeze. I mean, this is a very big deal, obviously, being a footy state here. And here on SEN, we're very heavily involved in the footy. And to see your smiling face, dressed as Mad Max, go down that slide. Talk us through that experience and how did it come about? Because you're one of the few motorsport icons that have actually been a part of that history of the Big Freeze in the 11-year history that it's been going.
Yeah, look, it was great that the Danaher family reached out, and to be honest, it was a great honour to meet Neil. He spoke to us behind, I think it got aired behind the scenes when we were in sort of our dressing gowns and trying to hide what we looked like. And it's obviously a great cause, 11 years, and really special that, like, even at the end of it, all those beanies and the virtual seats that were sold really goes into a good cause. And I've very proudly got my beanie here, which actually has my number on it. So I'm 129th slider out of the 11 years. And it's just really special to be part of that elite sort of field. And I actually was a little disappointed in some regards. My costume really didn't represent Mel Gibson in a lot of regards. I just had a leather jacket on and everything else. But I thought, well, bugger it. I'm going to try and do something special as I go down the slide, and to try and do a backflip off the end. It's the only time I'd like to roll something that's into the ice bath, which was it was damn cold. Like, it was bitterly cold, and get out the other end. And Hamish there to actually have an interview and trying to get your words out was pretty hard. But as I said, great cause.
It absolutely was, and we all loved seeing you there. Turning our attention back to the Triple Crown this weekend. Now, the track to town is this Thursday, and it's going to be a hotbed of activity with loads of community events happening, plus the world-famous Transporter Parade as well. There's really nothing else like it.
No, and the truck drivers love it, and there's no doubt about that. That's their pride and joy. Because you got to sort of remember that even for us at Red Bull, that since the truck has left to go to Perth, it's literally going to Darwin, Townsville, and literally doing the full circle of Australia. So the truck drivers are very proud of their trucks, and to be able to showcase that and drive them through town. I know that Northern Territories love that side of it. And even driving out of the circuit before the truck parade, they're all lined up down the highway and the route that the trucks take, and then to get them parked up. Because normally people only, as you said, see them at racetracks. So to actually see them drive through town, I think the biggest thing is over the years that I've seen it go on is the drivers, one of their claims to fame is having the loudest horn. You don't want to have a truck that's got like this little dinky horn, because you're thinking this monster truck with this little horn. So the truck drivers over the years have really migrated into almost like the big train horns. It's great to see.
Actually, just going back to the Red Bull truck there, you guys have actually got an extra trailer added on board. This is like a full-on road train that went over to Perth and then went back over because sort of doing a bit of heavy lifting for the rest of the category.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the team had a ride day on the Monday after Perth. I actually missed that because I had to go fly to Melbourne for the big freeze. But yeah, so the trucks are literally on the road now until they get back to base after Townsville. So to carry all the gear and everything else is obviously intensive. So Pom, who drives our truck, he loves it. As I said, he's got a triple trailer, and not only that is they all convoy together. So it's like I call it a big circus, but the truck drivers look after each other. They all go in convoy. So if anyone or one of them has a problem, they all stop, help out, and then of course clean them up, get them up there, and put on a great show. And so as I said, everyone gets up there quite early just to take in the atmosphere. Mindle Market, there's lots that goes on up in Darwin, and from what my understanding is, it's almost the biggest, if not the second biggest event that they put on up there besides some of the AFL side of it. But it just really embraces what we do as a category, and we do it very well.
Hidden Valley's also been a very, very happy hunting ground for you as well. I mean, you were the first ever winner in Darwin when they had the race up there. You also had your 100th win there, but you never were able to get your hands on that Triple Crown. It was almost the one that got away. But what is it about that elusive Triple Crown? And this year, the Super 440 format really lends it. It's almost purpose-built for a track like Darwin and the spectacle that it is. But what is it? What was it about that Triple Crown that just made it so elusive? Because really, it's Scotty Mack and Jamie Whincup that are the only two men in the history that we've been going to the top end and racing there that have got their names etched on that Triple Crown trophy. What is it that just makes it so elusive?
Well, it's one of those things that's, even back then, to try and get a perfect weekend, or any weekend for that matter, is damn hard, and especially with the competition and everything else. It makes it really impossible at some points. As you mentioned, there's only been a couple that have achieved it. So to go up there, the circuit itself, when we first went up there, was very different in a lot of ways to what it is now. We've got now our pit lane buildings and everything else. When we first raced there, we just literally had marquees that we worked out of. And to be able to win the first one, which I got to say, I had a little bit of help because Scaife was actually winning the race and his engine broke with about 200 metres to the line. I was right behind him. I could have been a good teammate, not really, and passed, and actually stayed behind him, but I didn't. I passed him and took the victory. Everyone thought it was a big setup at the time, but he ended up having an engine failure right at the last minute. So to win the first one was great, but as you said, that Triple Crown is something we all go there and actually think about. And this year, as you mentioned, the 440 is just a perfect scenario to have the three races, but to execute a perfect weekend is so hard with the current competition and the way the cars are.
I can guarantee you right now, if the roles were reversed and it was MS in your car and you had a bailiff, he would have done the exact same thing you did. Don't you worry about that. But speaking of being back on the grid, you've got a couple more rounds before you're back in the Supercheap Auto Wildcard. You've got Zach Bates, last year's Super 2 champion. Tremendous racing pedigree there. We know just what the Bates family name can do, both off-road and on a closed circuit too. But what's your assessment of Zach been so far? Because you've really, I don't want to say that you've, well, no, actually, no, you have had a very big helping hand in the Supercheap Auto Wildcard, and we've seen guys like Cooper Murray that have gone and made it to the main game. Brock Feeney right now, admittedly, you weren't part of his first appearance in the Supercheap Wildcard, but it's still that same program. I mean, it's been great to sort of bit of a launcher for young drivers, because you yourself know what it was like. I mean, it's been how many years later and people still call you the kid, for crying out loud. But how's it been, first off, the progress that Zach's been doing, and secondly, just as a program itself, the Supercheap Wildcard, giving those guys just a little taste of main game action that they might not have got otherwise?
Yeah, look, firstly, I think it's easy to talk about the program. Like, you're right, Russell Ingall and Brock Feeney were the first to kick it off. Brock's gone on to do what he's doing now, amazing job with the Red Bull cars. To be part of the program now, for me, this is my fourth year as sort of the lead driver, but I'm also the co-driver in a lot of regard, because the first couple of years we just tried to get people to understand the establishment of letting those guys, whether it was the Cooper Murrays, Declan Fraser and those guys, to do all the heavy lifting, do the qualifying, start the race if they could, but they've somewhat changed the rules a little bit. So they experience all the tension and the hype and what they go through, or what hopefully they'll go through when they progress and move on. So for me, it's, even though I'm designated the lead driver, as I said, somewhat just helping guide them through that week, especially Bathurst. And all 3 years have been a little bit different. All drivers have got different personality, the way they approach things. Cooper last year was great. He just very easy to deal with, in the sense that he likes going out and talking to crowds. That side of it. Declan, we had to warm him up. Zane was a bit shyer. So again, all three of them have been a little bit different in some regards. But my role is not necessarily in the driver's seat, because you put a helmet on them. They're fast, they're keen, they're eager. It's more the off-track side of it, where, especially again, Bathurst, you've got to manage that week. You get there on Monday or the Tuesday. You don't get in the car until Thursday, Friday. Race doesn't start until Sunday. So you've got this whole lead-in of just getting the kids to understand that it's managing your energy, managing your mental exhaustion, as well as then getting ready for the race come Sunday. So for me, that's more of the off-track side of it that I'm trying to help them out with, Cooper's had a tough year this year, because he got a main drive with Erebus. Every team again is different. So I've been talking to Cooper, especially over at WA. I'll see him again in Darwin, to help them. Once they get there, is then to, try to get them to establish them there for a long time. And as you mentioned, Brock has done that, and he's done a very good job at it.
He's done a sensational job there. And you talk about the one thing that is going to be a big unknown is this year you start off at the Bend, and 500 kilometres around a circuit that you've only been in a supercar once, and that was in your final year as a main game driver, the first year we had the track. This is going to be the great unknown for quite a lot of people actually going into, so it's almost evens the playing field a little bit.
Well, it does. And for Zach, again, we've done some great things with him last couple of months. Also been watching him in Super 2. He did a great job last year. But we both will go there, yes. Very much unknown with this generation race car, with that track, knowing there's going to be a 500 race. That's going to be the interesting thing. So we both got to probably help each other a little bit through that side of it. But there's no doubt that, Zach, again, he's having a good year this year. He's, again, changed teams. So for him to really understand the complexities of different teams and the way they operate, the way they do things is really interesting. But it's also been a great base for him and great learning.
It certainly is, and we look forward to seeing what's going to happen there. And we'll also be seeing him at Queensland Raceway. Normally, we've had a wild card up at Darwin, but it's good to see him back at QR. It's actually good to see QR back, full stop. But before I let you go, CL, it'd be absolutely remiss of me to ask, because obviously the big headline that came out during this year was you and Triple Eight will be parting ways after a good 20-odd years together. And it's quite the headline, and I can tell you right now, a lot of people were shocked by it, but I just want to know, how many current Camaro teams picked up the phone and be like, hey, what are you doing in 2026? Like, what does 2026 look like for Craig Lowndes?
Well, that's a chapter that needs to put a full stop on at the moment, but it's the biggest decision, obviously, as you mentioned, to leave Triple Eight at the end of this year, which will be my 20th, literally 20 years, 2 decades of being part of the team. And it'll be sad in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of people still in that team that I was, involved in when I first started in 05 and now in 25 that I'll close that chapter. So the biggest thing was to make a decision whether to stay Triple Eight or stay with GM. And to stay with GM, really for me, I first began my racing, at HRT with Holden. So to stay with GM was a no-brainer for me. But as you mentioned, like where I fit into the GM program or the family, that's what we're working through right now and working out what next year looks like in the driving sense. There's a whole heap of things that have still got to work out. But the biggest decision and fairness to Jamie and Red Bull was to let them know that I'm going to stay with GM. They can move on. They can get organised, which they're currently doing, getting ready for next year, but obviously with the Ford badge. And I will, Bathurst for me will be my end of chapter with Triple Eight.
And look, it's one of those things too, where I think everyone was glad for two things. That we're glad to see you still on the grid in coming years, wherever that may be. And secondly, you always want to leave a place, better than when you got there. And I don't think there's a fan out there that can say that, you didn't, give it all for Triple Eight, and it's in an absolute powerhouse where it is now, because it's not often brought up too much. You did take a big gamble when you joined RD all those ways back 20 odd years ago. So, but see, look, you've been very generous with your time. We look forward to seeing you on the coverage. And if not, trackside up at Darwin. Thanks so much for joining us back on the driver's seat, and never be a stranger here.
No worries. Thank you for having me.